Hi and welcome. This video is called Think Locally, Act Globally. This is a creative assignment for Module 4, which Dr. Culhane discusses is about the subaltern studies. For this video, I did want to read my own relational summary, seeing how this is my first presentation slash video that I'm making. I did want to read my own content. But before I start, I did want to go ahead and just read what Dr. Culhane defines as subaltern studies from his lecture. He says, by quoting Wiki, that the subaltern studies is a group of South Asian scholars interested in the post-colonial and post-imperial societies. Their anti-essentialist approach is one of history from below, focused more on what happens among the masses at the base levels of society than among the elite. Dr. Culhane also mentions how Gramsci coined the term and that it was a way for him to say that cultural hegemony that excludes and displaces specific people and social groups from the socio-economic institutions of society, which is how they deny their agency and their voices in the colonial politics. I think those two terms together is a very nice way to lay the foundation of what the studies are, and just to really kind of also say that it's a way to break away from a Eurocentric bias so that they can reclaim their own voice and agency. In this week's module, Dr. Culhane taught about subaltern studies, what it is and why it is important to understand, which I just went over in the previous slide. While only recently learning of the subaltern studies last year, this module provided a better context for how the North interacts with the subaltern and why this is harmful. The environmental injustices placed on the global South is one of the many injustices. In my last module, I mentioned the TED Talk of Uma Usif, who spoke of how her country in Pakistan seeks reparations due to the climate change disaster that the industrialized global North has profited from. In this video, she discusses how in 2022, a third of her country is underwater, and this is in direct part from climate change. I have listed the video here if you are interested in watching it. When people from the global north go and volunteer in the global south areas, their altruistic intentions cause harm. The intent of wanting to do good and be a good person is real, but it's also these imposing preconceived ideas of what is better for others that has also been the justification behind most colonial expansion. The belief that our society, the global north, knows best, and that the global south should be grateful for volunteers, is, as Kaylee Gould said in the TEDx video, a white savior complex. In Monsignor Ivan Illich's essay, To Hell with Good Intentions, he passionately talks about the disservice volunteering does for the communities and individuals. His words carry anger and frustration, and towards the end of the essay, he simply states, just come and visit and spend your money, but to please don't come and volunteer and pretend to be doing good. This essay also encapsulates Dr. Culhane's lecture, where at the end he's asking us to realize to make change, we need to focus on what is here locally if we're wanting to have any real change globally. I agree with James Fernandez's discussion about our education, which has a Eurocentric bias. I really thought it was a poignant example of colonial power still at play with Puerto Rico. James writes, Puerto Rico has been under U.S. control since 1898, and since then, the island has undergone many eras of U.S. driven change that has contributed to so many aspects of everyday life that lacked environmental awareness and sustainability. Much of the fate of Puerto Rico has always excluded the subaltern voice. This is a really insightful point that many of us in the United States tend to forget about. That right here in our own country, there are the power struggles at work. Austin Smith's post was also very insightful, comparing the lecture with books that have been able to resonate the loss of voices due to colonial powers. Austin also agrees with the powerful statement that Dr. Colhane mentions at the end of the lecture, of focusing on the local to act globally. Lastly, I really enjoyed learning more about the subaltern discussion through Luke Moyer's post. Luke discusses the book Can the Subaltern Speak? By Gayatri Chirakovji Spivak. And I'm sorry if I said that wrong. What I thought was interesting was the two different representations, Vertatron and Darsalon, and how Luke emphasizes that in our culture today, it is still hard for minorities to get proper representation, and oftentimes representation takes place instead of actual representation for progress. I wanted to include some ideas in which all can act locally to act globally. I made a simple infographic in which I want to advertise these ideas. I will post it on this next slide. But some initial ideas that came to mind are taking part in local government programs. Last month, Tampa was offering backyard digesters to individuals who met the requirements. By looking at the website, it looks like they do offer this program yearly to individuals that own a home and have enough space. Some other ideas for individuals that might have a smaller house, yard, or live in an apartment condo could be just starting with composting. Also, local organizations that offer cleaning up our city and our neighborhoods. Another idea is joining a CSA membership, which is a local farm that provides produce weekly that you subscribe to pick up and have your own locally grown food instead of going to Publix or Winn-Dixie or Whole Foods. Is supporting something local and getting what is locally and seasonally grown here in the Tampa Bay area. I will also go ahead and post these links that I also posted on the Canvas page for my relational summary. You have made it to the end of my relational summary. I appreciate the time to listen to my video today, and I do hope to get better with the presentation, the layout, the content, and the speaking. This has been Danielle Thurston with Module 4, Creative Assignment, Think Locally, Act Globally, signing out.